this is what I asked. Actually, Joe Crazy's first, so we can know what Lee's all about, what she actually does when it comes to the creation of Heroscape. So this is what Joe Crazy had asked. I'd like to know what an associate producer does for a board game like Heroscape. What's an everyday experience for that type of job? So what exactly do you do, Lee?
Oh my gosh. So it's like, no joke, it's literally like the murder conspiracy board, and I'm not any of the cards. I'm literally all of the string going in every single direction. So it's me chatting with Jeannie, who's our creative lead, me chatting with Alex, Dylan, and Rowan, our devs. It's me having like really big conversations with Dan, who's our senior producer of Board and Card, and also Scott, or me chatting with Jordan, Anais, or Sophia, like our marketing people, Leisha, our VP of like production and logistics. It's like, not to be like, I'm like this hub world where everything comes together, but like that's literally what it is. Like, I'm making sure everything is on time. I'm making sure like the devs have what they need. I'm making sure Jeannie doesn't have any roadblocks. I'm making sure Dan and Scott have all the appropriate documentation they need, plus doing my own internal documents that I'm responsible for. I'm making sure I'm on Leisha's good side when next week I'm like, oh, by the way, I have this crazy, fun, exciting new thing I want to do. How quickly could we get this made? So she's not upset with me. So I make sure she's very well taken care of, because she's wonderful. I mean, everyone's just wonderful. But it's literally just making sure the game can be the best it can be now and in the future. So it's, I mean, I know it doesn't completely answer the question, but it's like literally everything. Like, well, not literally everything, but you know, getting.
So Lee is basically Valhalla.
Yeah.
Like,
no.
Lee is Valhalla.
No, it's like I'm like the contact person that knows a lot and where everything is in the process. So like, I don't want to say, oh, I'm a project manager, because there's more than that. There's, you know, coming up with ideas. It's doing deep dives into things, doing, you know, profit and loss analysis. It's working with the devs and being like, okay, well, this is what we have to work with. This is how many figures can go in this army expansion, or, oh, we can only have, you know, this much terrain, or, oh, it'd be really cool if we could like sneak this character in as a 2.0 or whatever, and stuff like that. Or, oh, this thing was really popular, I noticed. What could we do with this? Like, just, it's literally like, it's literally like a little bit of everything, but in one person, which is why I'm everywhere, always watching. No,
that's great.
Oh,
I mean, because that's kind of how it felt in the first place. Because I mean, you are literally everywhere, like online, when it comes to communicating with people and stuff. So you do that with community. You do that, you know, with people in Renegade. That's
right.
That's a good place to start from. All right. Well, now I'm going to get into my question. Okay, hardball question. Here we go. All right. No, when it came to like Renegade first getting like the IP of Heroscape and the whole process, really in kind of like the past year, like say the first like 6 to a dozen months, we got an announcement. We got pins, that Gen Con Heroscape pins. I still have mine in my desk right here. And then it was like wait and see and not much communication, which basically like cast a lot of doubts, because like, well, we don't know anything. Well, and I mean, and I've said this before, we don't need to know anything. It's Renegade's business. They can do what they want. But at the same time, why was there a radio silence to begin with? Just, I think that might be a good thing to tell the community. Like why was there so much silence and not much communication at the beginning?
Well, you need to have a team first. And when Renegade put out that like announcement, it was like beginning of June of 2023.
Right.
to put like not a timestamp, but like to give you an idea of like I applied for that position, like for the associate producer position, like end of June, maybe beginning of July, and then I was interviewed, and then Gen Con happened, and then after the studio returned from Gen Con, so after they gave everyone the pins, then I was hired. I accepted the offer, and then my first day was Labor Day of 2023, which I didn't have to work, which was awesome, I guess. But returned, the day after. So that was September, and so at that point, so it was, I have to be like, it was just me on the Heroscape team, because obviously there was still Dan and Leisha and Scott and Jordan and Andy and all these awesome, wonderful people, but like it was literally like, hey Lee, this is your first week. Here's all this stuff we got. How about you familiarize yourself with it? And Renegade as well. It's like, okay, cool. So that was my first week. And then the second week, Rowan started. And then, I gave Rowan their space because, first week of a new job, you're just like, you just need to absorb everything because at the end of each day, you're mush anyway. Yeah. And then, after that, like we would, meet and chat every single day. And we're like, okay, well, we got to make a master set. What will go into a master set? Well, we've got so much stuff left over. What if we did this thing? We're not going to call it a starter set because a starter set makes it sound inferior. What if we did this thing that's like a close-up look at something that happened on Valhalla during this battle of all time that was like this important moment that like, maybe started the whole thing. And that was how the battle box came to be. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, okay, well, then we put everything else in army expansions. So then what I did was I literally reviewed what was left, and then I reviewed all of the card text, and I was like, okay, what has to go together if they were going to be in an army expansion? Because I don't want to unintentionally break any synergies. Like, if I had Queen Maladrix paired with Halucia, like, that'd be terrible. No, Queen Maladrix has to be with the Festering Honor Guard because that's how they work. Same thing with the Oathbound Phalanx and the Oathbound Legionaries. Like, they have to be together. And then it was, so like after doing that and then like figuring out what is the master set. Is our master set bugs versus bears, or is our master set a nice sampling of almost everything, like a good little sampling, because that's how master sets were previously, like just like a nice little like appetizer sampler. And yeah, right. So that took some time. And then Renegade Con, where everyone found out what animals I like and what ice cream I like, because at that point, the concepts for the master set and the battle box weren't approved yet. Okay. Which is why I didn't call them those things, because I was like, well, Hasbro hasn't approved it yet, but we're making them, because Hasbro would be nuts to say, no, we're not going to do those. So that's why I didn't say very much then. And then shortly thereafter, of course, thankfully, they were approved. But so it was honestly like just figuring out what the whole game line was going to look like for 2024 and 2025, and like how could we break Age of Annihilation up into these digestible chunks that made sense, that would help drive the story forward, and like timing of things. So like that's why Vorak isn't in the master set. It's like, well, we're already introducing Brevna, and if people are just getting into Heroscape or getting back into Heroscape, they're going to be like, wait, what's going on? Because now we've got 2 new Valkyrie generals. So just to sort of, clear the air on that bit, like that's why Vorak is delayed. We want to give Brevna some time to shine, and also like that way, like new players wouldn't be overwhelmed. And also, also a huge part of it is like from the Adlab campaign, if you remember, like a lot of the Dryans were originally Volrak. And I was like, that doesn't make sense. Like you've got your steampunk critters, and then you've got these like wizards. It's like, so you have these critters, but they aren't very woodsy because they're relying on technology. And then you have like these powerful wizards, and then you have your beasts. These critters aren't beasts. Like the Dryans don't synergize with these, but they're Volrak. Like why? That doesn't make sense. So like that's why, you know, some of the Dryans are Ular, that's why some of them are Ocula, and like that. So it's like what makes sense. And that took time because it was getting, you know, creating pitches and getting concept docs and all the appropriate steps in order to get things made. And like all the figures were already revealed during the HasLab campaign. So it's just like, hey, we're making this. You're like, yeah, we know. You already said you're going to release all this stuff, so that's not exciting. You're like, oh, okay. So like it takes a while to like drum up new and exciting things. Sure. And then also like the way Renegade operates and just tabletop games, like publishers in general, like the big deal is Gen Con. Like that's our big deal. So it's like, yes, in 2023, like the big deal was, hey, Heroscape's coming back, here's a pin. And then in 2024, the big deal is like, hey, the master set's out, the battle box is out, and all this stuff. So in between then, in order to keep things fresh, we do Renegade Cons, which are, for those that are not familiar with it, it's like mini digital conventions and things like that, where we talk about new releases, product reveals, and stuff like that. So we wanted to save it for Renegade Con.
And so, yeah. how do you think, like, when did thinking about like, oh, Heroscape's got a community, maybe we should talk to them sometimes, when did that start coming into the window?
So I just do the maniacal laugh because sometimes I'm just like, and not that it's like, what did I get myself into? I'm very thankful for some of the friendships I've, you know, and the people I've gotten to know, like so many wonderful, wonderful people. But like my previous job, when I worked with Asmodee and FFG, I was not permitted to be a part of any game communities. I was not allowed to like even like join Discord servers or things like that because of all my secret projects that I worked on. And so that's why I was like invisible. Like I was literally a lurker. Like I would visit Heroscapers, but you know, I could never join the Heroscapers Facebook page because that was to private, you know, and it's like, oh, and I can't let work people know that I'm joining gaming communities because I really love my job and I don't want them to, you know, so like, so that's why I was always a lurker. But I guess for me, like, I want to know what people are saying. I want to know what they like. I want to know what they don't like. I want to know what they're looking forward to. I want to, you know, like things like that. Because not to be like, oh, it's research, but like, you know, what are people looking forward to? What do they really like? Because, oh, they really like these things? Oh, we should really like focus on that. Or, oh, what's something that's lacking? You know, where can we improve? Like things like that. And, you know, like, yes, there are all sorts of controversies and things like that, but it's just like, because you know, in the beginning, like a lot of people within the community were like, oh, you know, Renegade, they're this big, huge corporate company. No, we're not. No, we're
you're pretty small.
Like we're, you know, like we're a big name, but like we don't have hundreds of people. You know, like, you know, we're, you know, a moderately sized publisher and full of like industry veterans and things like that. So like we know what we're doing. We all love games. Like we're literally like a company. So like I can't say that about every single publisher. Like, you know, like where I worked previously, not everyone at Asmodee loves games. You know, they just happen to be really good at what they do. So
all right.
But yeah. So yeah, it was honestly like find out what people are saying, and yeah, and also to troll a little bit. Why not?
And let's see here. I do see my buddy Jason here above my head had a question. Any timeline on when we will see Renegade original units for Heroscape?
Yeah,
and Jason, if you want to, I don't know if you want to clarify that at all, Jason. I don't know.
No, that's right. I think we just got a pretty good answer right there. So
2025. Okay. There we go. All right.
Also tells you how long it takes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like it's a. I guess can I follow up with that question? Is you know, what's been revealed and released so far? What has been like the most satisfying thing that's been released for you?
know this is gonna sound dumb, but the battle box. Just because for me, the battle box was okay. Well, I can't make a $40 master set anymore. Not with how much shipping is, how much it costs to make things. Like, so I mean, I will say it's like, oh yeah, well it only costs this much to make it in China. Yeah, but you still have to ship it from China to the U.S. And then once it's in the U.S., it still needs to transport on the rails. So like, you know, on trains, and that costs money. So, and like freight. So like we pay a lot in shipping in order to get something made. So having a $40 master set just unfortunately is not in the cards, but a $40-ish like battle box right off the get-go, like maybe we can try. So like for me it was that, because it's like, you know, that's what drew us all in. Not necessarily the price point, but like oh my gosh, what's this amazing thing on the shelf? But like, you know, we already all know what's in a master set, and like a battle box, like I wanted something like Rowan and I were like, we wanted something where it's like you learn how to play Heroscape as you go through the scenarios. And we wanted something, I'm going to be honest, that was appealing to a younger audience as well. And it's like, well, what do kids think are cool pirates? You know, like, and it's like, oh yeah, you know, bears, but I don't know if kids are going to be like, oh my gosh, armored bears, but they may be like, oh, that like owl is cute, and oh, that like squid wizard is really cool looking. So,
and pirates.
I would say the battle box.
Who doesn't like pirates, you know?
Shortly followed
Pirates is
by
such a good starting option.
Shortly followed by booking that our artist for the master set art, because we love working with him.
Nice.
Cool. Okay, and let's see here. Ropescaper question: is it possible to describe some of the transition from the failed HasLab campaign to being, and I think we talked about it a little bit, but from the failed HasLab campaign to being produced by Renegade, like some of that process?
I mean, like what comes to mind is the Vine. I don't know if y'all are. I'm probably dating myself by mentioning the word Vine, but like the Vine of like this little girl being like, look, it was literally that, but with like, here are all these sculpt files, and here's what they look like, and here's all this hard text, and by the way, we didn't deliver all the stuff, so sometimes it's in different spots, so it's literally like, okay, we do have this, or oh, we didn't get this. So it's like literally like making a checklist. Okay, what do we have, what do we not have, do we have everything? So it's like going through everything, making sure we had everything. And so the process, I don't know if I can describe it as a process, because honestly a lot of that was Scott, Dan, and Leisha, and like when I was hired, it was, do we have everything? What can you do with this? Let's make stuff with it. And it's like, yes, okay, yes, let's do it. And, you know, do all that stuff. So I can't necessarily describe what the process was like getting all that stuff, because that's not my realm. That's definitely more Leisha's realm. But it was almost like being a kid in a candy store, just seeing all this stuff. And then just making choices and things like that. So I guess that was my feeling, but as far as the process, that's not necessarily something I can speak on.
Okay. Okay, and let me see here. Okay, Jeremy. Well, actually, wait. Before I do Jeremy's, because that's a little bit more a fluff question. Let me go to the chat real quick. And because I know we had some questions here. Let me go through this. Back up to Matthias Ken there is asking, are you doing autographs? I think that's I guess that's a very fluff question. Here, hold on a second. I just gotta scroll through these. I gotta find what I'm looking for. Where are we here? Okay, Silas.
I did have someone at Gen Con ask me to sign their battle box, which was really weird. I did, and I thought it was very sweet. But I'm like, this is so weird. I'm just a person.
The more you work on things, I mean.
Yep. That's just Heroscape.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
I was
That's
like,
the vibe. Because
and then to Dan, I was like, Dan, does this ever happen? He's like, I was like, okay. And then I was like, this is so weird.
I got Craig to sign my Kaminawa card because
Right.
he mentioned on the forums that Kaminawa is one of his favorite sculpts, and I somehow remembered that because I was like going through my stuff. I was like, what card should I get Craig to sign? Oh yeah, the one he likes. And it was just like, how do I remember that? I don't know. But yeah, that stuff like that is just this fan stuff, I guess.
I
We know
think
that
most-
you have that association. You made the battle
I
box,
think-
so everyone's gonna bring the battle box to you. So.
Yeah, I think a lot of people at Gen Con, I could be wrong, but it seems like a lot of people had their Raylan 1.0 army cards signed at Gen Con when Craig was there this year.
And actually, this one in the chat kind of coincides with the question that Josh, a ranger, here gave, which Josh was saying, given Heroscape figures are created in either single piece or a couple pieces for plastic molds, were there any issues that came up either with AOA figures or new figures where many had to be redesigned to fit those constraints?
I mean, that definitely happens more, I would say, on the production side, like once we actually have our sculpt files, whether they're ones we inherited or ones we received from our sculptor. Once we send them to the factory for them to make 3D prints, as they make the 3D prints, they have experts there that are like, oh, okay, well, we need to, thicken, the antenna of the bugs by however many tenths of a millimeter to prevent breakages. So it's just little tiny things like that, nothing where something is reposed or greatly reduced or enlarged in size. Is just more to prevent breakages.
Okay.
Or the glide strikers, the way they go onto the base was modified ever so slightly, but it was just
so small
because
sometimes,
the
small
factors
modifications.
this will be yep.
And
no, I know that Genethrax was
no, that's fine.
I know that Genethrax was slightly changed too, but I think that was more of a appearance kind of pose, right, to get the jazz hands out of the way.
I have no idea what the story behind Zenithrax during the HasLab and the Zenithrax week out was. I would assume something like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so
Because-
like I said, like I've mentioned before, you have to remember everything that came with the HasLab was not, that's a separate entity now. Like whatever was part of the HasLab, that is not what went into the Renegade design. Like they got the minis, they got the stats, whatever story that came with it, that was Chris. That was Chris's stuff.
Is it weird having to kind of design something that a lot of it has kind of been given to you? Is that kind of a backwards process of designing, or is it helpful to kind of have all these things in one spot?
I feel like that's definitely a question that's better suited for Alex, Rowan, and Dylan. I guess for me, I would say it makes it a fun sandbox. It's not like, oh, hey, here are your constraints, but it's like, hey, here's what we have. Where are there gaps? Where can we fill those gaps? What are some needs? And so, it gives you this system and things to play around with. So, not to be like, oh, it's like this blueprint, but that's how I would view it. And then it's like, and how can we expand upon it? So.
And for those in the chat, kind of lead off to the question. Silas is asking, do you pick colors for the characters?
It is a team effort, I will say. So, Dylan, Rowan, and Alex do a great job. So one of the things we very briefly touched on was in the designer roundtable that we have during Renegade Con was walk us through the process from concept to final play test. But one thing that we didn't go over at all was art descriptions. And art descriptions are something that aren't the R&D team, so Rowan, Alex, and Dylan do, where, you know, take this hero or squad or whatever, and how are they going to look when they're on their army card? Well, that also comes into play with colors for the pre-painted figures. And sometimes colors are called out, and other times colors are described. So like a color will be called out if I'm provided like a specific Pantone color. And that happens when we've made something for that group before. So like I'll use Hellforge Manduker, for example. Like Hellforge Manduker's colors were easy because it's like, well, we did the Necrotech Wraith Riders and Ironlich Viscerat, and then eventually Gavarus, Lord of Ruin. So like those colors are already established, so we have Pantone colors and things like that. But sometimes colors are described. So it'll be like, oh, well, a creamy green, or, you know, a red, like a dark red. And it's like, okay, well, is it a dark red as in a purpley red, or is it a dark red that, like, you know, sort of leans toward like brown? So literally, so I make these diagrams that go to our painter who does the paint masters. And it's literally just me like toying around with Photoshop and playing with different color palettes and stuff, and then running it through the devs, and then being like, okay, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? And this and this and this, and we all, you know, collaborate. It's like, okay, well, maybe if you modify this color a little bit, and it's like, okay, I'll toy around with it and stuff. And so my previous experience for my previous jobs come into play there, which is handy. But then, yeah, so I would say it's definitely a collaborative effort, but you can't be like, I chose the colors for blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, we either agreed on them as a team. I mean, yes, I literally, like, worked on it in Photoshop, but I didn't pick the colors.
Which unit has the best color scheme, in your opinion, really, so far? Or best, meaning your favorite, of course.
My favorite? I mean, I feel like the answer is Halucia because he has the ugliest color.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so
That's really cool. That's cool trivia.
Yeah.
Oh, good old Hal.
Yeah, good old.
Yeah, I mean, there is one that I'm very much looking forward to. That will be revealed in the future, but I'm very excited for everyone to see Holoshot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the team worked. I feel like we did a great job. So I'm very excited for Holoshot.
Very nice. We have Derek here asking, Lee, Heroes of the Grid is ending after 5 years of development. Is the intention for Heroscape to go longer than something like its original life of 6 years?
I would certainly hope so, because that's my job.
Yeah. We gotta keep Heroscape alive.
So now we know who to hold accountable, though.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, I think we know that it's selling really well, and as long as we keep up the support and the creativeness of the game, it'll be fine. Because we all know the way it was being packaged to stores and stuff is pretty much, for the most part, what brought it down. So, with it being packaged I think the battle box is clearly the winner for everyone to get. So as long as we keep making battle boxes,
you want to play Heroscape, get a battle box. That's
exactly
what I've been telling everybody.
Yeah, my friend got it.
The easiest entryway into the game.
He's like, I got 6 figures, and he keeps on asking me for all my old duplicates. I'm like, all right, I'll find some for you.
Yeah, I created a local
it's the best gateway ever.
Where I live, but it's a bunch of like 8 through 12-year-olds.
Yeah.
So it's my son and husband do Taekwondo, so donated. I donated some extra battle boxes to the dojon, and yeah, so now I'm gonna have a whole community of 12-year-olds. Great. Be like, oh yeah, awesome. I can. So.
And Ben in the chat.
That's my local scene.
Ben in the chat has a very important question. I think it's a very, very important question. This is Lee. How awesome is Jeremy? And when did you discover how awesome he is?
What? Why is that in the chat? Hold on, man.
Jeremy's a delight.
Wow.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, lore master right here, you know?
Lord,
no, it was
enthusiast.
no.
I'm
So
not
before I even reached out to, well, initially Jeremy reached out, and somehow I got involved. It was like my first. Okay, so it was literally my first week. Dan was like, hey, we got this email.
my first week that I heard she got hired, I sent her an email.
Yeah, and I was just like, what is going on?
I didn't realize, I didn't know about. It's like contact instantly.
I was like, wait, what? And I was like, well, maybe later. And then, yeah. But then before I reached out to Jeremy, I reached out to Ben, and I was like, hey, so I'm thinking of reaching back out to Jeremy to help with this lore council. And I was like, what do you think? He's like, well, yeah, obviously. I was like, okay, great. And then, we have another wonderful soul also on the lore council.
Y'all can make me blush.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate
that.
that.
I'm very happy and pleased. Don't disappoint us.
Oh no! Whoa. Pressure! I can't do it. That's crumble.
Whoa. And then
the weight is too heavy.
I have well, okay. Here's one, and I'm asking because someone asked me to ask this. Any possible hints on future terrain sets or ideas? Terrain.
Well, I mean, there's the stuff that we talked about at Renegade Con, so snow and swamp, and then in summer there will be lava, and then in fall there will be roads, and
I'm so excited for roads. Cities come back.
And then obviously walls at some point in the year. Originally walls were going to be a part of spring, but we're adding something exciting that I think people will be really excited about. So that'll be ready when it's ready.
Okay.
So the tough thing is I treat Heroscape like Star Wars, where it's this big licensed thing, and I don't want to make anyone I work with freak out because I'm talking about stuff that we're just
for sure. Oh, we understand if you can't say something.
Because I don't want to do anything to cause our relationship with Hasbro to like I don't want them to be concerned, So it's like we're thinking of awesome ideas, and there is something that we recently pitched that was approved that I am excited for. That's going to be in a thing for 2026 that I think people will really like. That is all I can say at the time. But yes, we're always cooking up new things.
Absolutely. And
the work continues.
And then we have this last question for Sir Jeremy himself, and he asks, "What's your favorite? What's your favorite flavor of ice?" I'm sorry. I want that.
He's lying. He's lying.
No.
Oh my goodness!
I'm kidding. I threw in that joke.
I almost asked that during the designer roundtable because I thought it'd be funny, but I didn't want to make anyone be like, well, why is Lee asking that? And I was like, well, I sort of wanted to do it to troll people because they were upset with that question.
It's going to become a meme someday, I guarantee you. It's going to be a meme.
It really is how it is. It's like,
it's like what?
But no.
No. So I don't know if Ryan told you. I was like, I'll join around 9 or 9:10 after I have a bowl of ice cream for dinner.
That's what
amazing.
What flavor?
What flavor?
Yeah, what flavor?
You have to go pull up.
She can't answer everything, guys. She can't answer everything.
That's to be determined. That flavor. Okay.
And
now we just need a collab with Ben and Jerry's.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that Heroscape Ben and Jerry's ice cream. I'd be all over that.
Oh, some crunch,
little hex shaped chips in it, like
Oh, for sure.
They do all kinds of weird stuff.
Yeah, that'd be the crunch, little hex-shaped whatever.
Yeah.
Also, I mean,
Yeah,
it's kind of a big deal that Army Painter is having some officially sponsored, Heroscape colors.
Yeah, that was wild. That was
hasn't talked a lot about it, but as someone who paints, like that's a pretty significant. Like they usually do that for pretty high brands. So like to see Jandor Blue is kind of a small little like dream come true of mine. So I don't know who was involved with that, but I think it's a really cool addition to the painting and escape scene.
Yeah, Dan and I, and Leisha and Jeannie, met with Army Painter a lot on that, so we're very excited. So it is a whole process.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But it doesn't take nearly as long as making a figure, but it is still a process.
Because I called it. I never mentioned it when it was like, oh, we're teaming up with Army Painter. Here's like a link to their store, and I was like, that doesn't seem like a team. Like I always felt like there was more coming. So I'm happy to see that set come out, and there's some unique colors in there. So I'm excited to.
Yeah.
Well, I think I own most of them.
Well, and they've also recently really, really punched it up with the Fanatic line.
Fanatic,
and that's what's in the set. So.
All right. No, but the actual question from Jeremy is, and this is a good one to end off this interview for now. And Lee, we really do appreciate you coming on and
yes, thank you for joining us.
Oh yeah, for sure. Thank you for having me.
It was a treat. But Jeremy does ask, what is your favorite classic character, Jeremy?
Well, it's just like if you know how about the customs community, how they just literally just keep asking.
Oh, customs, right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So if you could create a custom from the Heroscape universe, what would it be?
Can it be based on an IP?
Yeah, I mean that's what customs are for.
Yeah, that's what Heroscape's all about.
Anything goes in the custom world.
It's so hard to pick one. Like, if it were Star Wars, I'd pick Kit Fisto or Plo Koon.
Ooh, yeah.
If it were
to mention, I don't know if you know this.
If it were like film based, I'd pick The Bride from Kill Bill.
That's actually something that'd be fun to have.
Oh my god, and that would be so cool. Like you could have, you have like The Bride, and then you've got Go with like her ball chain thing, and then that'd be awesome.
Yeah. I don't know
80s
if
action
you
heroes.
ever had heard, by the way, and this I probably shouldn't mention it because it's depressing to think about, but back in the 04-010 line, they were actually working on Star Wars Heroscape. They had designs, they had cards, they had stats, they had everything, and Hasbro just never said green light. I don't know, but there was stuff made for it. There was plans for a Star Wars Heroscape, so.
Yeah, all my time.
Let that float in the air.
Yeah, all my time working with FFG and Asmodee and like any Star Wars game I touched, I was like, "Where's Kit Fisto? Why isn't Kit Fisto in this?" And they're like, "Why does Kit Fisto need to be in this?" I'm like, "Have you ever seen the short from Gedney where he slices ships in half with his lightsaber?" I understand it's not canon, but how amazing is that?
It is to
like
me.
that is why I fell in love with Kit Fisto. Like that was amazing, and then I did him dirty in the movies.
Thing.
Well, we could talk about Star Wars some other time.
Yeah.
That's a whole other black
I'm
hole.
holding
That
back
does help.
commenting because I really want to join.
No,
Don't it derail.
No, none of that.
It's part of the conversation. She chose Star Wars as the IP.
true.
No, that's fine.
The Heroscape
Only a
custom.
logical jump.
Or Kill Bill.
Yeah, Kill Bill.
Kill Bill.
I
which-
like Kill Bill.
That one was surprising.
Kill
I
Bill.
like that.
Yeah,
I like
Kill
Kill
Bill's
Bill.
cool. Kill Bill's cool.